The Galactic Council had ruled the stars for 3,000 years. They believed they knew everything. They believed they had found every intelligent species in the galaxy. They believed nothing could surprise them anymore. They were wrong. Ambassador Vexanar of the Xanthari species sat in his large chair at the center of the council chamber. His blue skin glowed softly under the lights of the space station called Harmony Prime. Around him, representatives from 12 different species talked quietly among themselves. It was a normal day. Trade agreements needed signing. Border disputes needed solving. Nothing exciting ever happened anymore. Then the alarm started. Unknown vessel approaching, the station's computer announced. Origin, uncharted system. Species, unknown. Vexanar leaned forward. An unknown species? That had not happened in over 500 years. Every corner of the galaxy had been mapped. Every civilization had been found and catalogued. Who could this be? Far away, on the edge of the solar system, Captain Daniel Harper stood on the bridge of his ship. The vessel was called the Horizon, and it was humanity's first ship capable of traveling faster than light. Daniel was 42 years old, with gray hair at his temples and calm brown eyes. He had been a soldier once, fighting in wars on Earth. Now he was an explorer, leading humanity's first mission to make contact with alien life. "There it is," said Amy Turner, his navigation officer. She was young, only 28, with red hair tied back in a practical ponytail. Her fingers moved quickly over her console. "The signal we detected. It's coming from that station." Daniel looked at the massive structure floating in space. It was bigger than anything humans had ever built. Hundreds of ships of different shapes and sizes moved around it like fish around a reef. This was it. This was proof that humanity was not alone. "Lisa, open a channel," Daniel said. Lisa Morgan, the communications officer, nodded. She was a small woman with dark skin and bright eyes. Her specialty was languages, though she had never expected to use it for alien contact. "Channel open, Captain. This is Captain Daniel Harper of the Earth vessel Horizon," Daniel said, his voice steady. "We come in peace. We wish to establish friendly relations with your people." The response came quickly. The translator technology they had developed worked better than expected. "Earth vessel, you are cleared to approach. The Galactic Council welcomes you to Harmony Prime." Kevin Brooks, the chief engineer, let out a long breath. He was a big man with thick arms and a shaved head. He had spent 10 years building the Horizon's engines. "Well, they didn't shoot at us. That's a good start." Daniel smiled slightly. "Take us in, Amy, nice and slow." On Harmony Prime, the council members gathered at the viewing windows. They watched the strange ship approach. It was small compared to their vessels, and its design was crude. The metal hull showed signs of radiation damage. The engines flickered with unstable energy. "Primitive," said Trade Minister Kovacs of the Vorthan species. His 4 eyes blinked in amusement. "They have barely achieved faster than light travel. Look at that engine design. It is at least 2,000 years behind our technology." "Where did they come from?" asked the science director Malara of the Malari species. She was thin and tall, with silver skin that shimmered when she moved. "I have never seen their ship design before." Ambassador Vexanar checked his data pad. "A small planet called Earth, in an unremarkable system on the outer edge of the galaxy. We have no records of it. How is that possible?" Malara asked. "We mapped the entire galaxy. Obviously we missed one," Vexanar said with a dismissive wave of his hand. "It happens. Some species develop slower than others. These humans probably emerged from their Stone Age only recently." The Horizon docked at the station. Daniel and his crew stepped off the ship and into a wide corridor filled with alien beings. They tried not to stare, but it was hard. There were creatures with scales and creatures with fur. Some had 2 legs, some had 4, some had none at all, and floated on anti-gravity platforms. The smell was strange, a mix of chemicals and organic matter that made Kevin's nose wrinkle. A Xanthari official met them at the dock. "Welcome to Harmony Prime. I am Assistant Secretary Yarvel. I will take you to the council chamber." Daniel nodded politely. "Thank you. We are honored to be here." As they walked through the station, Daniel noticed how the aliens looked at them. Some seemed curious. Others seemed bored. A few seemed annoyed, like they were looking at insects that had wandered into their home. "They don't think much of us," Amy whispered. "Can you blame them?" Lisa replied quietly. "Look at this place. They've been building civilizations while we were still learning to make fire." The council chamber was enormous. Hundreds of seats rose in circles around the central platform. Aliens of every shape and size filled the room, their voices creating a low hum of conversation. Ambassador Vexinar descended from his chair to meet them. He was tall, over 7 feet, with smooth blue skin and large dark eyes. His robes were made of fabric that seemed to shift colors as he moved. "Welcome, humans of Earth," Vexinar said. His tone was polite but carried a hint of superiority. "The Galactic Council is always pleased to meet new species." Daniel bowed his head slightly. "We are grateful for your welcome. Earth hopes to establish peaceful and productive relations with the Council and all its members." "How charming," Vexinar said. "We will, of course, need to evaluate your species, determine your capabilities, find an appropriate role for you in the galactic community." "An appropriate role?" Daniel asked. "Yes, every species has its place. The Xanthari provide leadership and diplomacy. The Vorthans manage trade. The Malari advance science. The Drexians handle security." Vexinar smiled, showing teeth that were too sharp. "We will find something suitable for humans. Perhaps agricultural work. Your species seems sturdy." Daniel felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his expression calm. He had dealt with arrogant officials before. "We look forward to proving ourselves useful." Far below the council chamber, in the deepest levels of the station, something was happening that no one noticed. An ancient computer system, built long before the current council existed, detected the human transmission. The system was connected to the archive world, where the Keeper species stored all knowledge in the galaxy. A search began automatically. The word Earth was processed. The genetic data from the human transmission was analyzed. Cross-references were made with files that had not been opened in 60,000 years. A match was found deep in the archives. A file marked with the highest security classification began to unlock. Red warnings flashed on screens that no one was watching. The file was labeled in a language so old that only the automated translators could read it. The label said, "Extinction level knowledge. Species designation, Deathworlders. Planet of origin, Terra. Do not wake them. Do not anger them. Do not let them remember." The file began uploading to the central system. In the council chamber, Ambassador Vexinar was explaining to the humans how they would be given a small section of unused space to colonize. Daniel listened politely, hiding his frustration. His crew stood behind him, equally uncomfortable with being treated like primitive newcomers. None of them knew that in a few hours, everything would change. None of them knew what they really were, and none of them knew that the galaxy was about to remember why it should be afraid. Keeper historian Mirasol had worked in the archives for 112 years. Their species, the Keepers, lived for centuries and dedicated their lives to preserving knowledge. She had read billions of documents. She had cataloged information about wars, discoveries, and civilizations long dead. Nothing surprised her anymore. Until today, she was working in the deepest vault of the archive. World when her console began flashing red. The alarm was loud and harsh, a sound she had never heard before in her long life. She rushed to the screen and read the alert. Priority file activated. Classification: extinction level. Automatic upload to central system in progress. Mirasil felt her hearts begin to race. She had 2 of them, and both were pounding. She had heard stories about the extinction level files. Everyone in the archives had. They were supposed to be legends, warnings from ancient times. Nothing more. She opened the file. The first thing she saw was an image. It showed a small blue planet covered in water and green land. The planet orbited a yellow star at the edge of the galaxy. Basic information scrolled across the screen. Atmosphere composition, gravity measurements, temperature ranges. Then she saw the species data. Mirasil read it once. Then she read it again. Then she pushed away from her console and ran faster than she had run in decades. Meanwhile, on Harmony Prime, the humans had been given quarters in a quiet section of the station. The rooms were comfortable but plain. It was clear that no one expected them to stay long. Daniel sat on the edge of his bed, thinking about the council meeting. The aliens had been polite, but he had felt their contempt. To them, humans were just another minor species to be managed and controlled. They would give Earth some crumbs and expect gratitude in return. A knock came at his door. He opened it to find Amy standing in the corridor. "Captain, something strange is happening," she said. "I was trying to access the station's public information network, like they said we could. But half the system just went offline." Daniel frowned. "Technical problem?" "Maybe. But Lisa picked up some unusual communications traffic. A lot of encrypted messages going back and forth between the council members. And?" Amy hesitated. She heard our name mentioned. Earth. Something about Earth. "That could be normal," Daniel said. "We just arrived. They're probably discussing us." The tone didn't sound like normal discussion, Captain. Lisa said. Whoever was talking sounded scared. In another part of the station, Kevin Brooks was having a very strange conversation with a Malari scientist named Pilara. They had met in one of the common areas, and Kevin had started talking about engine design. Pilara seemed fascinated by human technology, though not in the way Kevin expected. "You use nuclear fusion for your main power source?" Pilara asked, her silver skin rippling with what might have been shock. "That's right," Kevin said. "Controlled fusion reactions. Clean energy, relatively safe." "Relatively safe?" Pilara leaned closer. "Nuclear fusion is incredibly dangerous. The temperatures involved, the radiation, the possibility of catastrophic failure. We abandoned that technology thousands of years ago because of the risks." Kevin shrugged. "We manage. Sure, there have been accidents, but we learned from them. Improved the designs. Now our fusion reactors are pretty reliable." Pilara stared at him for a long moment. "You learned from accidents, meaning people died?" "Some. Yes. And you kept using the technology anyway?" "Of course. The benefits outweighed the risks." Pilara made a note on her datapad. Her expression was difficult to read, but Kevin thought she looked disturbed. "Your species is very determined. We prefer to call it stubborn," Kevin said with a grin. At that moment, Pilara received a message on her communicator. She read it, and her silver skin went pale, almost white. Without a word, she stood and hurried away, leaving Kevin confused and alone. Mirasil reached the emergency communication center on the archive world. The keeper in charge tried to stop her, but she pushed past him and demanded an immediate connection to Harmony Prime. "I need to speak with Security Overseer Thrall," she said. "Now, this cannot wait." "The Overseer is in a council session," the keeper said. "He cannot be disturbed for anything less than—" Mirasil grabbed his arm. Her grip was stronger than her thin body suggested. I am invoking Archive Authority Code 0. Do you understand? Code 0. The Keeper's face went slack. Code 0 had not been used in 10,000 years. It meant only one thing: a threat to the entire galaxy. Minutes later, Commander Thrall appeared on the communication screen. He was a Drexian, a species built for war. His scales were dark green, almost black, and covered with scars from battles long past. His yellow eyes were sharp and suspicious. "This had better be important," he growled. "It is," Marisol said. "I need to show you something. Something about the humans who just arrived at your station." Thrall's expression changed from annoyance to confusion. "The humans? That primitive species? What about them?" Marisol transmitted the file. She watched Thrall's face as he read it. She saw the confusion become surprise. Then the surprise became disbelief. Then the disbelief became fear. Commander Thrall had fought in 6 wars. He had faced enemies that could tear steel with their bare hands. He had never been afraid. He was afraid now. "This is verified?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "The genetic markers match perfectly," Marisol said. "The coordinates are exact. The automated systems confirmed it 3 times. There is no mistake." Thrall read aloud from the ancient file. "The Death Warders. The species that evolved on Terra Mortis, the most hostile planet ever catalogued. They survived extinction events that would have destroyed any other species. They adapted to radiation, temperature extremes, toxic atmosphere, and constant natural disasters. They are persistence hunters. They do not stop. They do not give up. They do not die." He continued reading. "Warning. The Deathworlders destroyed the first civilization in a war lasting 300 years. They dismantled an empire spanning 5,000 worlds. They cannot be contained through force. Do not engage. Do not provoke." Marisol nodded slowly. "The first civilization tried to control them. They failed. Before the end, they used their most advanced technology to suppress the Deathworlders' memories. They hoped that if the Terrans forgot what they were, they would never become that again. And now?" Thrall demanded. "Now they have found us. They are learning about the galaxy, about our technology, about our history." Marisol paused. "And somewhere in their genetic code, the memories are still there, waiting." Back on the station, Lisa Morgan was monitoring communications when she noticed something strange. The normal chatter had stopped. All of it. The busy trading channels, the diplomatic discussions, the casual conversations between station residents. Everything had gone quiet. "Captain," she called out. "You need to see this." Daniel and Amy came to her console. Lisa pointed at her screen. Every communication channel on the station just went dark. Someone activated a lockdown protocol. "A lockdown?" Daniel asked. "Why would they?" He never finished the sentence. The lights in the corridor outside their quarters turned red. A loud alarm began sounding throughout the station. "Attention all personnel," a voice announced. "Harmony Prime is now under emergency lockdown. All non-essential personnel are to remain in their quarters. This is not a drill." Daniel looked at his crew. "Something is very wrong. We need to get to the ship." They moved quickly through the corridors. The station seemed empty now. Everyone had disappeared into their quarters. The only movement came from security patrols, Drexian soldiers in heavy armor carrying weapons. They were halfway to the docking bay when a squad of Drexians surrounded them. The soldiers raised their weapons, pointing directly at the humans. Commander Thrall stepped forward. He studied Daniel with those yellow eyes, looking at him like he was seeing him for the first time. "Captain Harper," Thrall said, "the Council has questions for you." Daniel kept his voice calm. "We haven't done anything wrong. That remains to be seen, Thrall replied. You and your crew will come with us. Kevin started to protest, but Daniel raised a hand to stop him. Fine, we'll cooperate. As they were led through the station, Daniel noticed something. The Drexian soldiers were professionals, trained for combat. They moved with precision and discipline, but their hands were shaking. They were afraid. These battle-hardened warriors were afraid of 4 unarmed humans. What had the Council learned about them? What had they learned about Earth? Daniel didn't know the answers yet, but he was about to find out. The council chamber was packed with more beings than Daniel had ever seen in one place. Every ambassador, every council member, every security officer on the station seemed to be there. They filled the seats, rising in circles around the central platform. The room was almost silent. No one spoke. No one whispered. They just stared. They stared at the 4 humans standing in the center of the room. Daniel felt their eyes on him. Thousands of alien eyes, all focused on him and his crew. The fear in the chamber was so thick he could almost taste it. These were the most powerful beings in the galaxy. They commanded fleets. They ruled empires. And they were looking at 4 humans like they were looking at death itself. Ambassador Vexenar stood at his podium. His blue skin had turned a pale shade, almost gray. His hands trembled as he gripped the edge of the platform. Captain Harper, he said. His voice cracked slightly. Thank you for coming. Did we have a choice? Daniel asked calmly. Vexenar ignored the question. The Council has learned certain information about your species. Information that requires explanation. What kind of information? Before Vexenar could answer, Keeper Historian Mirasol stepped forward. She carried a small device in her thin hands. Perhaps it would be easier to show you. She activated the device. A holographic image appeared in the air above the central platform. It showed a planet. A beautiful blue and green world with white clouds and deep oceans. Earth, Mirasol said. Your home world. You call it Earth, but it has another name. An older name. The image changed. Data began scrolling across the display. Numbers and charts that Daniel did not understand. Your planet has extreme axial tilt, Mirasol continued. This creates severe seasonal changes. Your atmosphere contains 21% oxygen, a highly reactive and dangerous gas. Your gravity is high. Your sun bombards you with radiation. Your tectonic plates shift constantly, causing earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Kevin stepped forward. That's just normal for us. Normal? Mirasol turned to look at him. Your planet experiences regular extinction-level events. Asteroid impacts. Ice ages. Supervolcanic eruptions. Mass extinctions that killed most life on your world. Not once, not twice, but 5 times in your planet's history. We know our history, Amy said. Do you? Mirasol asked. Do you know what happened 62,000 years ago? Silence. The humans looked at each other. Daniel felt something cold forming in his stomach. 62,000 years ago, Mirasol said, before any species in this room achieved space travel, the galaxy was ruled by the first civilization. They were powerful beyond anything you can imagine. They built the jump gates that connect the stars. They seeded life on thousands of worlds. They controlled everything. The hologram changed again. Now it showed magnificent cities, enormous ships, technology that made the current council look primitive. The first civilization believed they were the masters of the galaxy, Mirasol continued. Then they found your world. They found the species that called itself human. The hologram shifted. Now it showed ancient humans, but not like any humans, Daniel recognized. These humans wore armor of a design he had never seen. They carried weapons that glowed with strange energy. Their faces were hard, their eyes cold. The first civilization decided that humans were too dangerous, Marisol said. They tried to control your species, to limit your expansion, to keep you contained on your little death world. Death world? Lisa whispered. That is what they called Earth, Terra Moris. The death world, a planet so hostile that nothing should have been able to survive there. But you did. You survived everything your world threw at you. And then you turned that survival instinct on the first civilization. The hologram changed once more. Now it showed war. Ships burning in space. Planets in flames. Armies clashing across 100 worlds. The war lasted 300 years, Marisol said. The first civilization had technology thousands of years more advanced than yours. They had numbers. They had resources. They had everything. She paused. They lost. Commander Thrall spoke, his voice rough. The humans did not just defeat them. They destroyed them. Completely. World by world, system by system. They took apart the entire empire until nothing was left but ruins and warnings. Daniel stared at the holographic images. He saw human soldiers fighting creatures he did not recognize. He saw human ships ramming into enemy vessels, sacrificing themselves to break through defenses. He saw the determination on those ancient faces, and something inside him stirred. Something old. Something buried deep. We don't remember any of this, he said slowly. No, Marisol agreed. You don't. The first civilization's final act was an attempt at mercy. They used technology we cannot understand to suppress your species' memories. They buried your history. They erased your achievements. They made you forget what you were. Why would they do that? Amy asked. Because they hoped that if you forgot how to be conquerors, you would never become conquerors again. They hoped that 60,000 years of peace would change you. Vexnar finally spoke again. And now you're here. In our station. Accessing our networks. Learning our technology. His voice shook. Every piece of information you absorb brings you closer to remembering what you truly are. Daniel looked around the chamber. He saw the fear in every face. He saw soldiers gripping their weapons. He saw diplomats ready to flee. The most powerful beings in the galaxy, and they were terrified of him. Part of him wanted to reassure them, to tell them that humans meant no harm, that they had come in peace. But another part of him, a part he had never felt before, understood exactly why they were afraid. What do you want from us? He asked. Assurance, Vexnar said quickly. Assurance that you will not repeat history, that you will remain as you are, peaceful, contained, limited, Daniel added, if you prefer that word. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. He felt his crew behind him. Amy, who had dreamed of exploring the stars since childhood. Kevin, who had built engines with his bare hands. Lisa, who believed communication could solve any problem. They were not warriors. They were explorers, scientists, dreamers. But deep inside, in their blood and bones and genes, they were something else too. Something ancient. Something that had broken empires and burned worlds. You showed us this, Daniel said slowly. You showed us who we were. Why? Because we needed you to understand the gravity of the situation, Mexinar said. The danger your species represents. No, Daniel shook his head. You could have kept this secret. You could have found an excuse to send us away. But instead you told us everything. He looked directly at the ambassador. You wanted us to know. The question is why? Marisol answered. Because secrets do not stay secret forever. Eventually, you would have discovered the truth. Perhaps in our archives. Perhaps in the ruins of the first civilization that still exist in isolated systems. We decided it was better for you to learn from us in a controlled environment than to discover it on your own. Controlled, Daniel repeated. That word, again. These beings loved that word. Commander Thrall stepped forward. Make no mistake, Captain. The Council has forces positioned throughout this system. If you or your crew attempt anything hostile, you will be destroyed before you can reach your ship. Daniel looked at the Drexian commander. Thrall was massive, covered in battle scars, armed with weapons that could tear through steel. He was one of the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. And his hands were still shaking. Commander, Daniel said quietly, if we were what you say we are, if we still had the instincts of the species that destroyed the first civilization, do you really think your weapons would stop us? The chamber went completely silent. No one breathed. No one moved. Daniel let the silence stretch. Then he smiled, just slightly. But we're not going to fight you. We came here in peace, and we meant it. We're not the same species that fought that war 60,000 years ago. 60,000 years of forgetting changed us. Made us different. Different how? Vexinar asked, his voice barely audible. We learned something. Something your first civilization never understood. Something that maybe we had to forget everything to learn. What is that? Daniel looked around the chamber one more time, at all the faces watching him, and all the fear directed at him and his small crew. Mercy, he said. We learned mercy. The word hung in the air like a promise, or maybe like a threat. The council would have to decide which one it was. The council chamber erupted into chaos after Daniel's words. Ambassadors shouted at each other. Security officers moved to defensive positions. Some species called for immediate action against the humans. Others demanded time to think. A few just sat in stunned silence, trying to process what they had learned. Daniel and his crew were escorted back to their quarters. But this time, the guards were different. They kept more distance. They watched the humans constantly, but they did not point their weapons anymore. Fear had replaced aggression. In their quarters, the crew sat together. Nobody spoke for a long time. Finally, Amy broke the silence. So, we're what? Descendants of galaxy-conquering warriors? Apparently, Kevin said. He was staring at his hands like he had never seen them before. Those images. The armor. The weapons. That was us. Our ancestors. 60,000 years ago, Lisa added. That's longer than recorded human history. How could we forget something like that? Daniel stood by the window, looking out at the stars. They made us forget. That's what the Keeper said. The first civilization used technology to suppress our memories. They wanted us to start over. Why? Kevin demanded. If they had that kind of power, why not just destroy us? Why let us live? Maybe they couldn't, Amy said quietly. Maybe they tried and failed. The file said we survived 5 extinction events on Earth alone. Maybe we're just really hard to kill. The thought hung in the air. Hard to kill. That sounded like something from a war story, not something that applied to ordinary people. But they weren't ordinary people, were they? They were the children of conquerors. The descendants of Deathworlders. Lisa shook her head. I don't feel like a warrior. I feel like a communications officer who got in way over her head. That's the point, Daniel said, turning from the window. We've had 60,000 years without those memories. 60,000 years of being just human, struggling, learning, growing. We're not the same species that fought that war. Are you sure about that? Kevin asked. Because I felt something in that chamber, Captain. When they were talking about what we did, when they showed those images, I felt something stirring inside me. Something that wanted to prove them right. Daniel nodded slowly. I felt it too. But feeling something doesn't mean we have to act on it. That's what separates us from animals. That's what makes us human. In the council chamber, the debate continued through the night. Commander Thrall argued for immediate military action. He wanted to destroy the human ship and detain the crew before they could report back to Earth. They are too dangerous, he insisted. We cannot allow them to return to their world. They will share what they've learned. They will start preparing. In 100 years, maybe less, they will come back. And we will not survive what follows. Ambassador Vexenar disagreed. If we attack them now, we confirm their worst assumptions about us. We prove that we are their enemies. And more importantly, we have no guarantee of success. The first civilization was far more powerful than we are, and they lost. The first civilization was arrogant, Thrall growled. They underestimated the humans. We will not make that mistake. And if we fail? Vexenar asked. If even one human escapes and returns to Earth with news of our attack, what then? The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew what would happen then. The humans would come. Not 4 of them. Millions of them. Billions. And they would not come in peace. Mirasol stepped forward. She had been quiet during most of the debate, observing and thinking. There may be another option. All eyes turned to her. The first civilization tried to control the humans through force, she said. They failed. But we do not have to repeat their mistake. What if we offer the humans something they want? What if we make them our allies instead of our enemies? Thrall laughed harshly. Allies? With the species that destroyed the greatest civilization the galaxy has ever known. They did not destroy without reason, Mirasol replied. According to the ancient records, the first civilization attacked first. They tried to imprison the humans on their world. They killed millions of innocent beings. The humans responded. Perhaps if we treat them with respect, they will respond differently. You are gambling with the fate of the galaxy, Thrall said. The galaxy's fate is already being gambled, Mirasol answered. The question is whether we play wisely or foolishly. The debate continued for hours. Eventually, a vote was called. The result was close, but the majority sided with caution over aggression. The humans would not be attacked. Instead, they would be offered a choice. The next morning, Daniel and his crew were brought back to the council chamber. The atmosphere was different now. Still tense, still fearful, but there was something else too. A sense of decision, of purpose. Ambassador Vexenar addressed them. Captain Harper, the council has deliberated. We have decided to offer humanity a proposal. Daniel waited. We will not hide what we know from your species. You have the right to know your own history. But we ask something in return. We ask for time. Time for both our peoples to adjust to this new reality. Time to build trust. What exactly are you proposing? Daniel asked. A gradual integration. Humanity will be given full membership in the council, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails. You will have access to our technology, our trade networks, our knowledge. In exchange, you will agree to a period of peaceful development. No military expansion. No acts of aggression. Time for your species to decide what you want to be. Daniel considered the offer. It was better than he had expected. Far better than being confined to their quarters or destroyed outright. But he sensed there was more. And if we refuse? He asked. Vexenar's expression tightened. Then we will have to consider other options. Options that none of us want to pursue. Threats, Ambassador? Reality, Captain. You may have been conquerors once, but right now you have 1 ship and 4 people. We have 12 star systems and fleets that could destroy your planet before you could defend it. Vexenar paused. I am not threatening. I am being honest. We are afraid of what you might become. We are offering you a chance to become something better. Daniel looked at his crew. Amy nodded slightly. Kevin shrugged. Lisa gave a small thumbs up. We need to contact Earth, Daniel said. This decision is too big for 4 people to make alone. Of course, Vexinar agreed. We expected as much. You will be allowed to send a full report to your government. We ask only that you include our proposal and our reasons for making it. Daniel nodded. We will. An ambassador? Thank you for not attacking us when you learned the truth. It would have been the easy choice. Vexinar looked uncomfortable. The easy choice is not always the right choice. Besides, I suspect that if we had attacked, things would have ended badly for everyone. That night, Daniel sat alone in the communications room, preparing his message to Earth. He had to explain everything. The first civilization, the war, the suppressed memories, the Council's fear and their offer. He had to tell humanity what they really were. His fingers hovered over the console. How do you tell your entire species that they were once the most terrifying force in the galaxy? How do you explain that the reason no one remembers is because the memories were stolen from them? And how do you ask them to choose peace, knowing what they're capable of? He started typing. To the governments of Earth and all human colonies. This is Captain Daniel Harper of the Horizon. I have information that will change everything. I ask you to read this message completely before making any decisions. I ask you to think about who we are and who we want to be. I ask you to choose wisely. The fate of our species, and perhaps the entire galaxy, depends on it. He took a deep breath and continued writing. The message took 3 hours to compose. When he finally sent it, Daniel felt exhausted in a way he had never experienced before. Not physical tiredness, but something deeper. The weight of knowing what he knew. He hoped humanity would make the right choice, but deep inside, in that ancient part of himself that had stirred in the council chamber, he knew that whatever humans decided, nothing would ever be the same again. The Deathworlders were awake, and the galaxy was watching. Earth changed when Daniel's message arrived. At first, there was disbelief. People refused to accept that their ancestors had been galaxy-conquering warriors. Scientists demanded evidence. Politicians called it a hoax. Religious leaders struggled to fit the revelation into their beliefs. Then the evidence started coming. The Council transmitted the ancient files to Earth. Historians compared the genetic data to modern humans. The match was perfect. The timeline fit. There was no denying it. Humanity had been something more. Something terrible. Something great. The debate lasted for months. Some people wanted to embrace their heritage. They argued that humans should reclaim their ancient power and take their rightful place as rulers of the galaxy. Others were horrified. They wanted nothing to do with the violence of their ancestors. They called for isolation, for humans to stay on Earth and forget what they had learned. But most people fell somewhere in the middle. They wanted to move forward, but carefully. They wanted to prove that humans could be powerful without being destructive. On Harmony Prime, Daniel and his crew waited. They attended meetings. They answered questions. They became unofficial ambassadors, the first point of contact between humanity and the galactic community. The reactions of the alien species varied. Some avoided the humans entirely, refusing to be in the same room with them. Others approached with careful curiosity, like scientists studying a dangerous animal. A few offered genuine friendship, though always with a hint of caution. Amy Turner found a kindred spirit in a young Melari scientist named Kelara. They spent hours discussing physics and engineering, comparing human and Melari approaches to the same problems. Your species builds things in such strange ways, Kelara said one day. You accept risks that we would never consider. You push your technology beyond safe limits just to see what happens. Amy smiled. That's how we learn. By taking risks, but people die when risks fail. Sometimes. But that's the price of progress. We've always been willing to pay it. Kelara was quiet for a moment. I think I understand now why the first civilization was afraid of you. It is not just that you are strong. It is that you never stop. You never give up. You keep pushing, keep growing, keep adapting, no matter what the cost. Is that bad? Amy asked. I do not know, Kelara admitted. It depends on what you do with that drive. If you use it to create, to build, to help others, then perhaps it is wonderful. But if you use it to destroy, she did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. Kevin Brooks worked with a team of Vorthan engineers on upgrading the Horizon's engines. The Vorthans were practical people, focused on trade and profit. They saw opportunity in human technology. Your fusion reactors are inefficient, a Vorthan named Grex told him. But they are robust. Ours are more efficient, but they fail under stress. Perhaps we can combine our approaches. Kevin grinned. Now you're talking my language. Together, they designed a new type of power core. It combined Vorthan efficiency with human durability. The result was better than anything either species had built alone. This is good, Grex said when they finished the prototype. This is what the Council should be about. Different species working together, making each other stronger. Instead of being afraid of each other, Kevin agreed. Fear is wasteful, Grex said, but perhaps understandable. Your ancestors caused much damage. Our ancestors, Kevin replied. Not us. We're going to do better. Lisa Morgan established communication networks between Earth and dozens of worlds. She learned alien languages faster than anyone thought possible, as if some part of her brain had been waiting for this challenge. Humans have a gift for communication, as Antari linguist told her. You adapt to new languages almost instinctively. We have never seen a species learn so quickly. Lisa wondered if it was genetic. If the ancient humans had been conquerors, they must have needed to communicate with the species they encountered. Maybe that ability had survived the memory suppression. She decided it did not matter. Whatever the reason, she would use her gift to build bridges, not burn them. After 6 months of negotiation, a new treaty was signed. The Harper Accords, named after Daniel, established a framework for humanity's integration into galactic society. Earth would have full voting rights in the Council. Human ships could travel freely through Council space. Trade agreements would be established. Technology would be shared. In exchange, humanity agreed to a 20-year period of monitored development. They would not build warships. They would not establish military bases outside their home system. They would prove through their actions that they had chosen a different path. Not everyone was happy. Some humans felt they were being treated like children. Some aliens felt the restrictions were too weak. But the majority accepted the compromise. It was a beginning. Daniel Harper returned to Earth as a hero. He had represented humanity well. He had kept his composure when the truth was revealed. He had negotiated a fair agreement, but he did not feel like a hero. He felt like someone who had seen too much. He stood before the United Nations Assembly, now expanded to include representatives from every human nation and colony. The room was packed. The entire world was watching. I have spent 6 months among the stars, he said. I have met species we never imagined existed. I have seen technology that makes our greatest achievements look like children's toys. And I have learned the truth about our past. He paused, looking out at the assembled leaders. We were conquerors once. We destroyed an empire that spanned thousands of worlds. We were so terrifying that the survivors used their most advanced technology to make us forget, hoping that we would never become that again. The room was silent. Every eye was on him. The galaxy is afraid of us. They look at us and see the species that ended the first civilization. They see the potential for destruction that lives in our blood and bones. He took a deep breath. But I have also seen something else, I have seen human scientists working with alien engineers to build things neither species could build alone. I have seen human diplomats forming friendships with beings so different from us that we could not have imagined them. I have seen what we can become when we choose cooperation over conquest. Daniel's voice grew stronger. We have a choice. We can embrace our ancestors' legacy of violence. We can take what we want and destroy anyone who stands in our way. With the technology we are gaining access to, we could probably do it. We could build a new empire greater than anything the galaxy has ever seen. He shook his head. Or we can choose a different path. We can prove that 60,000 years of forgetting taught us something. We can show the galaxy that strength does not require domination, that power does not require cruelty, that we can be the greatest species in the galaxy, not because we can destroy anything that threatens us, but because we can work with anyone who offers friendship. He looked directly at the camera, speaking to every human watching. I know what I choose. I choose the harder path. I choose to prove them wrong about us, not by hiding what we are, but by showing them what we can be. The applause started slowly. Then it grew. Soon the entire assembly was on its feet, cheering. On Harmony Prime, Ambassador Vexenar watched the broadcast. He saw the humans cheering for peace. He heard their leader calling for cooperation. He wanted to believe them. He truly did. But deep inside, in a part of his mind that had studied history for 300 years, he knew that hope was fragile. Humans had chosen peace today. But what about tomorrow? What about 100 years from now? The ancient files were clear. Humans were persistence hunters. They never stopped. They never gave up. Right now, they were choosing to use that determination for peaceful purposes. But the potential for violence was still there, waiting, sleeping. Vexenar watched the human celebration and made himself smile. He would work with them. He would help them integrate into galactic society. He would do everything in his power to make this partnership succeed, but he would also be vigilant, because some memories, once awakened, never fully sleep again. The Deathworlders had chosen peace. For now, the galaxy would be watching to see how long that choice lasted. And somewhere deep in humanity's collective unconscious, 60,000 years of forgotten history stirred. Not with violence, not with rage, but with something else. Potential. The universe was vast, and humanity was just getting started.